Hey everybody, we're going to get started here. I just wanted to, first of all, welcome you all to the IFC Fraternity Recruitment Parent and Family webinar. My name is Adam Drawley. I am one of the Associate Directors of Student Activities in the Cliff Alexander Fraternity and Sorority Life here at Miami University. A couple housekeeping notes before we get started to the rest of the presentation. We're going to be going over a lot of information here in the next 15 to 20 minutes or so. And for sake of time, if you do have questions, we ask that you punch them into the chat box, and then we'll answer them at the end. And certainly at the end, you can wait to ask your question in the chat box there, but we'll be gathering them throughout the presentation. So without further ado, we will go ahead and get started. Again, this is just a high-level overview of fraternity recruitment here at Miami. There we go. All right, so a brief overview of the entire community. After spring recruitment, we will be at over 5,100 total students. We have 48 total active chapters on campus that are all governed by 3 umbrella councils. Our IFC, or Interfraternity Council, which is comprised of 23 all-men's fraternities, and governed by, like I said, the Interfraternity Council Board, which is 11 executive officers and advised by yours truly and the Fraternity and Sorority Life Office. They recruit members to join an organization and participate in formal recruitment process every spring. We have our National Pan-Hellenic Council, which is our historically African-American Greek letter organizations. That council is comprised of 3 fraternities and 3 sororities that are all recognized nationally and locally. Again, that council and those organizations are advised through our office, and they participate in a more individualized intake process. And then you have Pan-Hellenic Association, which is our women's sororities. There are 19 recognized currently at Miami. They are similar to IFC. They are governed by a group of student leaders and also advised by our office. And their recruitment process actually starts the weekend that ours ends. And for those of you that are interested, the National Pan-Hellenic, NPHC, and Pan-Hellenic webinars, parent-family webinars, will be tomorrow. So our recognized IFC organizations, we always get a lot of questions about what organizations are on campus because it unfortunately does tend to change year to year. So like I said, we do have 23 recognized fraternities on campus. I do have an asterisk by Phi Delta Theta because they recently colonized this past fall. So they will be participating in spring recruitment, although at a much lower capacity than all of our other chapters. So I'll give you all a second. Before them, our recent colonizations and recent expansions were Alpha Chi Rho, Beta Theta Pi, and Sigma Chi were the last several organizations that returned to campus. And we've had some organizations that have left campus in the last year, which I'll get into in a second here. So our unrecognized organizations are organizations that we also you may also hear underground organization or underground fraternity. They're kind of used interchangeably. These organizations are not recognized by the university, they're not recognized by our office, nor are they recognized by their national headquarters or the national fraternity. Our website has a lot more details about sort of specifics. I highlighted 2 on the right. So this is a list of all of our unrecognized organizations. Some are fraternities, some are sororities, some are NPHC organizations. But the 2 that I highlighted, Delta Tau Delta, I wanted to touch on that very briefly. Very obviously, there was a major incident last spring. There are still former members who are on campus. I don't know if they will be, at least historically, sometimes those unrecognized organizations or those groups that get kicked off campus will participate in some way and do their own recruitment. But just wanted to highlight that as a name that if your student mentions them, they are not recognized on campus, and nor are they by their national organization. And then Phi Kappa Tau is the other one that we know is relatively active. They host everything underground. They do not participate in IFC recruitment. They are not supported by their national organization, and we have had conversations with both the undergraduate men and their national headquarters, advising them and very sternly telling them they need to cease operations and not recruit for the spring semester. But as a group of men, they may choose to do so. So those two highlighted names, both names to be aware of, that if your student mentions their name, they will definitely want to steer in a different direction. Recruitment policies, requirements and policies. With deferred recruitment, that means that your student will have completed one full-time fall or spring semester at Miami. They will have completed 12 college credit hours from Miami or another accredited university, and their GPA must be a 2.75. That 2.75 is a bit of a bump from previous years. We were at a 2.5, so that is new this year. So if your student does have questions about that, a 2.75 has been updated on our website and all of our marketing materials. So that is the policy moving forward. Prior to joining any organization, every student that joins any Greek letter organization must complete 2 online education modules. There is a series of 3, but the third one they complete after they join and before they finish up their new member program. But before they join, they have to complete those 2 online education modules. And then in order to kind of get this whole process started, we require that they register via campus director by January 5th. Our Interfraternity Council has links in their Instagram, on their Twitter. We, as of today, I believe, are sending a newsletter out to all first-year students at Miami with links to register for IFC and Panhellenic recruitment. So please have them do that. Currently, the registration fee is $50, and it will be jumping to $75 after the new year. The schedule runs as follows, a very overview schedule. On Sunday, January 26th, I do recognize that that is technically before classes start, because they start on the 27th. So it kicks off on Sunday, January 26th, and then that evening through Friday, there will be open houses, bid distribution, and bid acceptance for each fraternity. And then Saturday, February 2nd, is our bid acceptance deadline. So we ask that any member that receives an invitation or a bid to join a chapter, that they accept it by Saturday, February 2nd. A couple common terms that are used throughout recruitment: P&M, which is a potential new member; a bid, like I said, a bid or / invitation. Those are used interchangeably, and those will be distributed every night. Once a student receives a bid or invitation, they can choose to accept it, they can choose to sit on it, or they can choose to decline it. Those decisions absolutely do not have to be made in the moment. We are encouraging all P&Ms, all men going through recruitment, to take their time to think about which chapter they want to join, and to more or less get, if they're interested in potentially joining multiple fraternities, to check all of the fraternities out that they're interested in before accepting a bid. And then drop is a term that's used to someone who stops pledging or stops the new member education program at any point. A little bit more detailed of a schedule. Sunday, that should say the 27th or the 26th, so my apologies for that. But Sunday, January 26th, recruitment kickoff will start at 3 o'clock with a presentation then following at 3:30. Each chapter will have a couple slides to just introduce all the P&Ms to what their chapter is all about. This will be held in the Armstrong Student Center. So that presentation will be about an hour and a half to 2 hours or so. And then we give the P&Ms an opportunity to go grab dinner, take a break, because it is a rather long presentation, before open houses then start on Sunday from 6 to 9 p.m. Open houses are very casual. There is no dress code. There's no real requirement. Every chapter does it a little bit differently. Some will do interviews. Some will do more event type of things. have foosball, cornhole or bags going at the same time. Maybe they'll be watching whatever sports game is on that night. But from 6 to 9 p.m., every fraternity house will be open, and the chapters that do not have a physical facility, they will be recruiting from a room on campus or another location. But we'll be sure to get that information out to PNMs via campus director. Then following that, a quick note about kickoff, that kickoff is required if your student decides to go through fraternity recruitment. We require it just that way that we can ensure that all the PNMs are getting the same information about all the chapters, and that they're all kind of on that same page as they start this process. So after open houses at 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., that's when chapters will start to hand out bids. And that same process with open houses from 6 to 9 and then bid distribution from 9 to 11 is going to carry from Sunday all the way through Friday. There will be chapters that will fill their class, essentially that they have a number that they want to hit, 25, 30, 35, however many each chapter chooses. But they will have that number. Once they get a certain number of bids accepted, then they will close. No chapter is allowed to close before Wednesday. So every chapter is guaranteed to have open houses Sunday through Wednesday, and we'll be handing out bids every single night. Other things to be aware of with the bid distribution, we've communicated to all the chapters that they hand out their bids between 9 and 11 p.m. So if there is anything happening after 11 p.m., we as an Interfraternity Council and an office will certainly be asking questions, but please ask questions of your students if there's any activity after 11 p.m. That is fraternity related. And like I said, Saturday, February 1st by 5 p.m. we ask that all bids are accepted, campus director. So joining the community, there is an expectation of some things that we ask every member to abide by, and things that we ask every member to uphold. Every new member will go through an education process. We call it our EME process, or our Enhanced Membership Experience. They will participate in Greek Step Up, which is a bystander intervention program. The EME process is a 4-week, it's basically the pledging process. It is the 4-week new member process where every PNM will get oriented to the chapter and learn about the chapter and what fraternity life is all about. As any student at Miami has to abide by the Student Code of Conduct, that same holds true for all fraternity members. Every fraternity oftentimes has their own set of bylaws and constitutions that they'll be held accountable to, and then they obviously have to abide by the university's hazing policies. There's plenty of support. We try to provide plenty of support to every chapter and every individual. Our Fraternity and Sorority Life office provides a lot of chapter support, a lot of support to chapter leaders with the sheer quantity of men and women in the fraternity and sorority community. We reach them various ways. One of those ways is through our local chapter advisors as well as our headquarters staff support. So every fraternity has a national headquarters, and we ask that someone from headquarters be here during recruitment, show up during the new member process at some point, but every chapter gets some type of support from their headquarters. So being new to the community, as I said, the EME process is the 4-week new member period. You'll hear pledging or pledge process. That's a very common term for this 4-week process. Each chapter's EME program or plan and calendar of events will be published online. So if you go to that website, Miami, Ohio, or miamiohifc.org/EME2, that is the website where you can view every chapter's pledging program. We ask that every chapter send out a parent letter. So after your student, if they choose to affiliate with the fraternity, you will be getting a letter emailed to you or in the mail, which basically outlines their process, as well as includes a calendar of events. So throughout that 4 weeks, there's a calendar of events for the days that the chapter has required activity. As I mentioned, we get a lot of advisor support. We require a lot of advisor support. One of those being that at any point where a chapter issues a bid or an invitation to join the chapter, we require that some advisor be present for that, whether that be from the university, a local chapter advisor, or headquarters staff member will be present for any bid distribution, as well as after they complete their 4-week new member period. The deadline for initiation for every chapter is March 1st this year. So whenever that initiation occurs, we require that an advisor be present for that initiation. And then at any new member meeting, an advisor is also required to be present. This is about the time where we get a lot of questions about second-year exemption. With Miami having a 2-year live on campus requirement, the exemption that they can apply for is that after they affiliate, they are allowed to live in a fraternity facility, but those are the 2 requirements for any individual seeking that second-year chapter exemption. So individuals must have a 2.75 cumulative GPA, so that will be measured after, or finally measured after the spring semester, and then there cannot be any conduct violations. So both of those things are checked periodically throughout the spring semester, and then the students will be given an approval from our office that they are allowed to live in a fraternity facility. That list also goes out to the chapters as well, so that they are aware of what freshmen are eligible and not eligible to live in a fraternity facility their sophomore year. Expectations for membership. The first and foremost is academics. Everyone is a student first. The ultimate goal is to get a degree from Miami and matriculate with the university and work towards that that piece of paper, that degree, that diploma that I'm sure you all will be very proud of your students once they achieve that. But we try to encourage our chapters to foster further academic achievement. We do find that members of the fraternity and sorority community do achieve higher GPAs than their unaffiliated peers. So we try to set the chapters up for success and provide them academic support so that they can then provide their chapter member support. Involvement, being involved in a fraternity or sorority can be quite intensive at times, and we do find that members of fraternities and sororities are also involved in other organizations on campus, whether that be business fraternities, student government, other student organizations, because they want to build that well-rounded portfolio after they leave Oxford here. And then the last one, with citizenship, we ask that they give back to the community, they give to their brothers and sisters, and then they give to Miami University to just help strengthen and foster a positive Miami experience for all students, whether or not they are affiliated with a fraternity or not. If you have any questions and want to reach out to our Interfraternity Council Vice President of Recruitment, Sam is in charge of basically the entire execution of Recruitment Week, and this, you may hear rush and recruitment used interchangeably. So the rush period, spring rush, spring recruitment, he is in charge of all the logistics for that week and the enforcement of the policies. So if you want to reach out to him, please use that email address below, ifcrecruit@miamioh.edu. If you have questions for myself, please feel free to shoot me an email as well. I'd be happy to answer your questions. If it's recruitment logistics, I'm happy to answer those. I may pass that on to Sam to follow up on as well. But as soon as you get your email question out to us, we'll be sure to answer that in a timely manner. So I know we've had a few questions in the chat box that a few of them I've answered as we have gone on, but now we will dive into the question portion. you. All right, so the first question was how difficult is it to get a bid after just one evening of open houses? A lot of chapters what the experience of the PNMs are, and what we encourage PNMs is to check out all the chapters. Certainly the chapters have been talking to freshman men all fall semester. They've been doing some recruitment, they've been doing events all semester. IFC has hosted several open houses throughout the fall semester as well, so that way to give freshmen an opportunity to at least check out the fraternity, check out their house in a more formal setting. I would say that a majority of the chapters will start handing out bids that first night. They will do more of an interview process if they do that. I wouldn't say that it is, certainly if your student wants to affiliate with a fraternity, our goal is to find the best fit for them, and sometimes things happen for a reason and they may not get a bid from one chapter that they were really hoping for, but with 23 organizations, I'm confident that there is a fraternity on campus for every student who chooses to affiliate. So if they may not get a bid that first night, please tell them don't fret, go out the second night, maybe check out a couple different chapters, maybe check out some ones that they haven't checked out before. If they really do have anxiety about not getting a bid that first night, you can always have them reach out to me or the Interfraternity Council. All of the 11 men on the executive board of the Interfraternity Council will be around all week and will introduce themselves at the kickoff, so they will know faces, they'll know names. So please have them reach out to someone else if they really do have any more questions or get really anxious about not getting a bid from a certain chapter. The number of houses that a student or PNM typically visits throughout the week, I think really varies. I think there are some students who will just make it their goal to go to one fraternity house because they're dead set on joining that chapter. With open houses being from 6 to 9 p.m., our Interfraternity Council will visit every house sometime between 7:15 and 7:45. I think we call it kind of sweep everybody out. Basically, we kick all the PNMs out of the house at that point and make them go to a different chapter. So IFC tries to encourage at least 2 chapter visits each night. Certainly that first night, if your student is interested in just one chapter, my best advice to them would be go to that one chapter first for an hour, maybe a little bit more, and then at least pick 2 other chapters to try to hit up the rest of that first night. So that way they can at least see 3 chapters that first night. It's been my experience that the students who visit, there's no hard number, but the students that visit multiple chapters or multiple chapter houses have the best experience. They make a better, more informed decision for them, and they feel a lot more confident in their decision about which chapter to affiliate. So I would say that we have students, like I said, that may just go to one fraternity, and we have students that may visit 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters, but I think anything more than 10 would be a bit of an outlier. We got a couple other questions here. Okay, so the question, what happens if you didn't attend those open houses beforehand? Will that put them at a deficit or a disadvantage? It does not. The open houses were completely optional. We actually get, I would say, a fair amount of men who didn't attend those open houses that will register for recruitment because they've talked to the men through intramurals or at the rec center or through some of those more natural touch points. And honestly, those open houses are great. It's really to kind of be a little bit more formal, a little bit more forward-facing that IFC promotes, but it is absolutely not a requirement, and I don't really think has much, if any, bearing on students' success in joining a chapter. The next question about difficulty joining a fraternity as a sophomore. Most chapters, this spring period is very much geared towards first-year freshman students. It is not, I would say, it's not difficult to join as a sophomore. Some chapters may be a little weird and may say like, well, you know, we try to look for freshmen, but every chapter, regardless of what your student might hear, every chapter is able to accept freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or even seniors if they choose to affiliate this spring. So it is not difficult. I know Phi Delta Theta, they colonized with just over 20 upperclassmen this fall, so they have sophomores and juniors in their chapter, and they, with their process and how it's set up, it's very much driven and geared towards, or I should say, very much driven by their headquarters. So I would encourage your student to check out Phi Delta Theta or some of the other chapters that are out there. And if they're really interested in joining a chapter and have made some good connections, I would say that I'm pretty confident that they would, even as a sophomore, receive a bid. So letters of recommendation for PNMs, that is a very Panhellenic thing. So a lot of sororities, I know it said that in the parentheses, similar to sororities. Fraternities are a lot more informal. If you are familiar with sorority recruitment, this fraternity recruitment looks a lot different than Panhellenic recruitment. But letters of recommendation, they don't need letters of recommendation. If it's something that someone if they are a legacy, meaning that if you as a parent or grandfather, aunt, uncle are affiliated with an organization, I would encourage you to reach out and tell them and say, hey, you know, I was affiliated with this chapter as an undergraduate at Miami or even at another institution. We'd still consider those students legacies as they come through. That's helpful information to know, but isn't required. And the same thing with letters of recommendation. If someone feels so compelled to write a letter of recommendation, I would say that that is completely your prerogative, but that would be a little bit of an anomaly if a chapter got a letter of recommendation. About legacies, I would first, if the student or the individual doesn't know that they are a legacy of a certain chapter, or have anybody in their family, they don't know that aunt, uncle, grandfather is affiliated with a chapter, make sure that they know that going into it. And then the individual recruitment chairman of that chapter would be the person that would be best to email. I believe there is also a place on Campus Director where as your student registers for fraternity recruitment, they can go in and make a note of that in their Campus Director profile. Campus Director, the easiest way that I could put it is kind of like Facebook for recruitment. It's specifically for recruitment. They can create their own profile. They'll put in their GPA, they'll put in their high school, college experience, other organizations, clubs that they're involved in. But that would be the place where they would note that they are legacy of a specific chapter on campus, because all chapters have the ability to see their profile on Campus Director, and they'll be able to see that and note that. Are there any other questions? Just wanted to give a reminder before we wrap up here that this webinar is recorded and will be posted on the Parent and Family Programs webpage. webinar page in the next day or so. So if you know of someone who was not able to be here, or if you want to review any of the information that we've covered today, please feel free to check that out on the Parent and Family Programs webinar page on YouTube. So thank you all for participating today, and I wish your students all luck as they finish up finals and head into fraternity recruitment. Thank you.